My name is Clara Aguilar. I am the marketing manager for Orders in Seconds. I'm going to be introducing our host today, and I'm going to be telling you guys all the goodies we have in store for the webinar, all right? And now I want to hear from you guys, the people coming into the webinar right now. How is everyone doing? Let me know where you're, the company you're from, where you're tuning in from, what state. We're here in New York, frosty New York right now. And what you guys want to learn from this webinar, all right? While you guys are writing that in the chat, let me just do a quick tech check, making sure everyone can hear me well and everyone can hear my screen. We have thumbs up for the people who have their videos on. Thumbs up, everyone. Yeah? All right. All right, let's see. I'm going to look at the chat right now. We have Alexander Ferreira. I think you were here at the last one. You're from Charlotte. I think you were at the last webinar. Warren, it says, can hear and see you perfectly. Well, thank you very much, Warren. I appreciate that. All right, guys. So now I'm going to just welcome everyone for being here today. Thank you, all our OIS customers, all our signups from LinkedIn. I see you. Thank you guys for being here. All of Dave's clients too that are here today. I'm super excited about the speaker today, and you guys are definitely going to find out why. So Orders in Seconds has partnered with Dave Kahle, a speaker, author, and consultant who's trained and certified more than 2,000 sales managers and tens of thousands of B2B salespeople in the Kahle Way Sales System. It's a proven system that will empower your sales force and dramatically improve your sales performance. Now, let me just check the chat. It says, I'm with Tropic Supply with 23 locations in Florida. Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. All right, guys, and just to share, a little bit of why we created this webinar, right? We joined forces with Dave because we have a lot of our Orders in Seconds customers, our wholesale distributors and manufacturers. A lot of them have sales teams that they have to manage, and some of them, may be struggling with sales performance, compensation plans, things like that. Some of them may need a boost in sales. So basically, they had all these questions, right? And we thought, all right, let's take all these questions, let's bring in an expert who can provide you guys with like practical tools for sales management to get the results that you want, right? So that's why we teamed up with Dave, and OIS and Dave want to see your business succeed. So we created this webinar just for you. Now let's go, and I'm gonna tell you guys today about your speakers. All right, we have Dave Kahle, who is a speaker, as I mentioned before, author and consultant, who's been the #1 salesperson in the country for 2 different companies in 2 distinct industries. Now, need I say more about just that fact right there? Well, I will. As a consultant and speaker, Dave has been in practice for over 30 years. He's spoken at more than 400 conferences in the United States and abroad. As an author, he's written 13 books on the topic of sales training and management for sales leaders and teams. His books have been translated into 8 languages and are available in 20 countries. He also writes and publishes 3 digital publications called Sell Better, Lead Better, and Building Biblical Businesses, which are distributed year-round with more than 7,000 subscribers. You can also listen to him, listen to his practical wisdom on his podcast. Yes, he has a podcast. I love podcasts. I'm a podcast junkie. The Kahle Way Growth Systems podcast. So make sure you guys look that up, all right? And, all of these accolades, you can see that Dave knows what he's talking about when it comes to managing B2B salespeople and teams, right? So Dave, thank you so much for being here today.
No, it's my pleasure, Clara. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Dave. All right. And we also have our co-host, Frank Monterrosa. He is the OIS Product Specialist who will be asking the questions, the top 10 questions, what you're here for, the top 10 questions sales managers ask about wholesale distributor sales teams. And he's going to be sharing a little bit more of the context of where our customers are coming from with the questions that they were asking. Okay. So now a little bit more about Frank. Frank graduated with honors and earned his bachelor's degree in marketing and advertising. He's participated in many leadership and entrepreneurship courses with more than 15 years experience in customer service, marketing, and sales. Currently, he manages the US and Latin American markets for orders and seconds. So a big welcome to both of those speakers, and those of you who have your camera on, you wiggle your fingers and that's how you clap, but you guys can say welcome in the chat, okay? All right, so what's on the agenda for today? First, we're gonna get started with the top 10 questions, right? Sales managers ask about wholesale distributors, sales teams. Then second, we're gonna go into the live Q&A with the speakers where you guys get to ask specific questions, right? Having to do with your business, your salespeople. And guys, you don't have to wait until the end of the presentation, right? Till the Q&A, like if you have a question during the presentation, what you guys can do is at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's a Q&A icon. Just click that icon and you guys can submit your questions there. So this way, by the time we get to the Q&A, we already have a list of questions, okay? So you guys can do that and you guys can start submitting them now if you'd like to. Okay, this just makes it easier for us to keep track of them. So thank you for that. And then lastly, we have a special gift for everyone who attended this webinar today, guys, that you're not going to want to miss. So make sure you guys stay till the end, okay? Dave's been very generous with his gift. All right, and now we're going to first start with the top 10 questions, and I'm going to hand it over to Frank. He's going to be asking the questions, and then Dave is going to be answering the question, okay? All right, go ahead, Frank.
Thank you, Clara, and I'm really excited for this webinar. And Dave, let's start off with the first question. And look, this is something that I have I've heard a lot. The salespeople are born, not made, and companies tend to look for this type of sales people. So the first question is this: what personality type in sales experience should you look for in new sales, in new hires?
Yeah, let me answer that in a couple different ways. Right. First, I like to think of what not to look for in a potential sales hire, because I see lots of people make mistakes. And the most common things people look for are experience. Do they have experience in the industry? Do they have experience with the product line? And I will tell you, those are not the things to look for, because that's just knowledge. And they can get knowledge. Most of the when I work with the salesforce, invariably, the best salesperson in a salesforce is somebody who's come from outside the industry. So they didn't come in, they weren't hired on the basis of their history or their knowledge. It was something else. What's the something else? Well, it's what I like the term qualities of character, characteristics in their personality, because you can't change them. Now, as an adult, they can change themselves if they choose to, but you can't change them. You have to hire certain qualities of character. So here's 5 characteristics. I mean, we've got a bunch of them, but these are the top 5. Number 1, fit. Does this person fit into your culture? Can you see him or her, doing what you want him to do? And just as importantly, do you fit this person where they are in their life and their situation? I mean, is it a good fit? That's first. Second, and this is extremely important, more important today than I think ever before, and that is what I call the ability and propensity to learn. They have to learn, they have to be able to learn, and they have to like it, because things are changing today more rapidly than any time in human history, and we're all having to learn and change and grow more rapidly than ever before. So if they don't have that, they're not going to succeed. Third one is, I think it's a zero tolerance for me, and that is integrity. You're a salesperson who's working with a lot of people and working with a lot of money. When you put both those things together, there's all kinds of opportunities for for bad behavior. And so integrity to me is absolutely a no-brainer. And then they have to have some sales aptitude. And you say, well, how do we know that? They look at what they've done. Have they done anything in the past that has been sales-ish? And sales aptitude can be easily measured these days with some of the assessments and things like that. And just one more, and this is a little tougher to find. That's what I call an image of success. Do they see themselves at a core level? Do they see themselves as being successful? Because if they see themselves as being successful, really, truly, if they have that vision, they'll figure a way to be successful. And if they see themselves as a failure, no matter what you do, they're going to find a way to fail. So those are the top 5 things, you know, that that I look for. And again, there's more, but we're limited on time. So thank you for the question. So next question, Frank.
Perfect. So it's time to put, next question is this. Look, a lot of companies are dealing with this type of problems, and that's because, especially after COVID, when wholesale distributors lost many employees. So the question is this: what's a good source for finding new hires?
Yeah, you know, I'm asked that question a lot. People say, well, should I advertise in the newspaper? Yes. Should I use Indeed or one of these software programs? Yes. Should I post it on LinkedIn? Yes. You should do everything, all of the above, because you don't know where your next sales hire is going to come from, and you need to work all those different possibilities because you're not quite sure. Having said that, the best way to find your next salesperson is what I call relational elbow grease. In other words, you just have to do the networking effort. I believe that you probably already know your next salesperson, or you know the person who knows them. You're one contact away from your next salesperson. And that is the best way to find a salesperson, is to work your network. And I mean, every single day, you ought to be doing something to create a network and put out there that you're looking for a salesperson, and you know, sharpen your antenna, keep your eyes open. Maybe it's one of the manufacturers who is calling on you, is looking for, you know, a job with less travel. You could be it. Maybe it's a wait person in a restaurant. I mean, you just have to be constantly sensitive and constantly recruiting. So where do you find the next salesperson? You know, all of the above, push everything, but put in the time to network and create that relationship. You probably already know them. You just don't know it.
Perfect. I like it, Dave. Let's move on to the next question. And look, with this one, most companies do not value the importance of training their sales staff. And that's why I'm coming up with this question, because how frequently should I be training my sales team, and how important is it? Because for some companies don't really value this specific thing. So Dave.
Yeah. Well, you know, so I got a vested interest in this. You know, I'm a trainer and I train salespeople, so I have a vested interest in it. But the answer is 95% of the wholesale distributor salespeople have never been exposed to the best practices in their profession. They don't know what they don't know. Not really, 95%. And when you come in and expose salespeople, hey, there are best practices in sales. There are ways that are proven to do this thing better. And when you teach them the best practices, it can just be huge difference, not only in your sales, but also in the career of that person. You know, one of the questions is, how much time should I spend training and developing my salespeople? And you know, there's some benchmarks out there. I mean, these things are studied pretty regularly. And the last study I looked at, the average wholesale distributor spends about 1.7% of payroll on training and development. So that's the way you measure percentage of payroll. 1.7%. That's the average wholesale distributor. The average every other company spends 4%. And high performing distributors spend 2.5% of payroll on training. So even the best wholesale distributors are significantly lower in terms of what they invest in training and development than every other kind of company. The world of wholesale distributors just has really, I mean, this has been a flaw, has really not done a good job in training and developing their people. So what should you do? I mean, 4% of payroll. You know, if you want to be equivalent to the good companies out there. I mean, some companies spend way more than that, but that's an average for good companies. And how that boils down is 4 hours a month. So 4% of payroll, 4 hours a month, and that's not in product knowledge meetings. It's not, your manufacturers coming in and doing their dog and pony shows. That doesn't count. We're talking about sales skills, the best practices in sales, training and developing. 4 hours once a month, 4% of payroll. There you go.
Perfect. So that means, Dave, we need to train and develop our sales team in order to be more effective and accomplish whatever goals we establish, right? So it's interesting to get that info, Dave. Let's move on to the next question. In question number 4, look, this is a really interesting one, Dave. I hear this all the time. Frank, onshore sales staff, the salespeople that I had left with the competition. In the question is this: how do you motivate your sales reps to stay loyal to your company and not move on?
Yeah. A lot of people will say compensation, you have to pay them better. And that's certainly a part. But every study that I've ever read about salespeople, what they look for, compensation is never number one. Again, there's studies, people study this kind of thing, and the consensus is the way that you keep people loyal to you is through excellent management. People hire into a company, but they leave their manager for the most part. So your management has to apply good principles of management, servant leadership, all those concepts for good management. There's some very specific practices that I would recommend. And these are sort of initiatives. Number 1 is engagement. Engage. So you want to get your salespeople engaged with the company, get them talking, get them involved in different things. So they don't see it as a job; they see it as being connected to something a little bit bigger than just the job itself. I think reward and recognition is always important for salespeople. Not only compensation, but salesperson of the month, and those kind of recognitions where you hold people up. You have salespeople present success stories in sales meetings, and those are ways that you reward and compensate somebody above and beyond just money. Of course, compensation is an issue, and it's not number 1, but it's always in the top 5. So your compensation plan has to be fair and has to reward the salesperson for doing what you want him to do. One of the things that most salespeople, again, in surveys, you read what salespeople want most from their managers. The number 1 thing is direction and feedback. Isn't that interesting? Direction and feedback. They want to know exactly what's expected of them, and they want to know how they're doing. And they want to know that not once a year. They want to know it almost all the time, every week, every month. That's just part of the personality. They need to know, they need to be appreciated, they need to be recognized, they need to know that they're doing what they're there to do. And those are some of the things you can do to increase loyalty.
Wow, that's really interesting. So people don't actually leave because of the companies. People actually leave because of the relationship with the management and how they get treated in money. It's important, but it's not the most important thing. The compensation is the relationship that you develop with the sales team or with the management team. Interesting. Yep. So let's move on to the next questions. I like that one. So with this one, look, Dave, believe it or not, there are companies out there that don't have sales goals in place. And most of the time, it's because they don't know how to create a compensation plan. Or if they have one, it's because they gotta have one, but they don't really understand how crucial is this for the business to grow. So the question is this: how can I set up a sales quota for myself, for my reps, daily, weekly, monthly?
Yeah. Well, we recommend, so we have something we call Kahle Way Sales Management System, which is a system for sales management. The first step in the system is to create annual goals for the sales force, for the sales team. And the question is, what do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? People will sell, of course, but you can measure sales behavior much more precisely these days than you could 15 or 20 years ago. So first question is, what do you want them to do? And the goals should come, I believe goals come from on high, they come from above down. So your owners or your executives need to set the goals, the basic goals for the sales team. And then the sales manager's job is take those and divvy them up in an appropriate way. For example, you might have a goal for new customers, but one sales territory, there are no new customers because he knows everybody. Everybody's is selling to him. The other one might be a new territory where it's everybody's a new customer. So the goals have to be, and again, there's an art and science here together. The goals have to be divvied up or arranged based on the sales manager's knowledge of the person, knowledge of the territory, and so on. But again, start with annual goals and you break them down. One thing that is really important when it comes to goal setting and ideas for salespeople, and it's something that most sales forces just never do, and it sounds so simple, and it's something I call QPC. QPC stands for Quantified Purchasing Capacity. Some people call it a share of wallet or whatever. Quantified purchasing capacity is the answer to this question. If this account bought everything they could from me over the next 12 months, how much would it be? Sounds simple. And you would think, like from my perspective, if you're gaining information about an account and you get, putting it into a CRM or system or something, as there's name and address and phone number and all that. Okay, once you get all that information in, what's the next most important thing you need to know about every account? How much they can buy. And I will tell you, I have personally and contractually worked with over 500 different companies. Do you know how many of them understood this idea of QPC, required every salesperson to get it, had a place on their computer system to put it in? Do you know how many of those 500 did that? One. And it's sometimes these little things like this can make a big difference. If I will tell you, this is one. If you just introduce this concept and require a salesperson to do it, that alone will improve sales, because salespeople will see, oh, wait a minute, there's a whole lot more potential here than I thought. So QPC potential is part of the goal setting process for sure.
Wow, I love it. I love the answer, Dave. Let's move on to the next question, number 6.
Mm-hmm.
Look, most of the time, wholesale distributors are so focused on selling to the existing customers, and they don't really pay attention to identifying new potential customers. So that's why this question is important. Is it recommended to set up prospecting goals for new customers, and how should I set up those goals?
Yeah. Well, that's an issue, particularly in the world of wholesale distribution, because it's built on repetitive sales calls. So it's call after call to a same group of people. I mean, that's the basis of wholesale distribution. And so people get into comfort zones, and a lot of salespeople are really uncomfortable with calling on somebody who doesn't know them and isn't expecting. That's a new customer, or at least a potential new customer. So I recommend a really organized approach to acquiring new customers. And we have a 4-month program to teach salespeople what we call the sales master's approach to acquiring a customer. And basically you start out with suspects. Suspect is someone you suspect might one day be a customer. So every salesperson needs to have a list of suspects. And then the salesperson's job is to do some research and turn some of those suspects into prospects. A prospect is a potential customer who has a need for what you sell, who can make the decision, and who can pay for it. So that eliminates some, but you're down to a group now. And then there is training and tools and systems to, number one, make the first contact with those folks. And a lot of people are afraid to do that. They don't know how to do it. They've never been trained to do it. So they can be trained. There can be systems set up to make the first contact, create the first meeting. By the way, All of these should be measured. How many suspects, how many prospects, how many first calls, how many first meetings, what to do in a first meeting. There's a training session, how you organize and manage the first meeting with someone who doesn't know who you are and frankly doesn't care. You know, how do you do that? What's the purpose of a first meeting? And to get a second, honestly, it's not to sell anything, it's to get a second meeting. And so we measure all those pieces. So if you're gonna, so number one, should you create new customer goals? Absolutely, because very few of the salesperson people are going to do it unless you have a quantifiable expectation, because they're uncomfortable doing it. They're comfortable calling on people they know, they're uncomfortable calling it. So you have to step into that. You have to intervene in that with very specific training and expectations and measurements. Measure along the way. How many prospects, how many first calls, how many first quotes to prospects, how many first orders. Every single week, every single month, you ought to be measuring those and managing the process. Acquiring a new customer is the end result of steps that happen along the way. Measure the activities along the way.
Perfect. And for all the attendees, there are a lot of different tools out there that you guys can use to measure the different stages of what Dave was describing. So it's really interesting and important to take note of what Dave just said. So let's move on to the next one, the number 7. Look, this is a very important question that is quite often difficult to define. And I believe you already kind of mentioned it in previous question. So the question is this: what do you recommend paying sales reps as a base salary and commission? Dave?
Yeah. Well, you know, I do a lot of work with sales compensation, and I mentioned to you when we were getting ready for this call, I just got off the phone with a coaching project with another client, and you know, we do so much of this. We have a process and a document and so on. So what do I recommend? 100% base salary programs are obsolete. 100% commission programs are also obsolete. So these days, what we generally end up with is a combination of what I call fixed or salary or base, however you want to call it, but it's that portion of a salesperson's income that he's going to get regardless, you know. And then in fixed and variable is that portion which we used to say was commission. I don't like to use the word commission today. We use the word incentives. So we have a base and incentives. So you know, you make some decisions. It could be 50-40, you know, 50-50, 40-60, whatever. There's a ratio there. The other thing to keep in mind when we're doing compensation plans, you know, let me just back up a minute. You know, we do a lot of work with compensation plans, and over the years, I've discovered this: most sales organizations have the compensation plan they have because they have it. There's no reason. It was just done by some previous generation, and they have a compensation plan because it's what they have. In other words, there's no strategic reason. That's got to be changed. The compensation plan is a huge part of a salesperson's job, and it should be defined strategically, rewarding the behavior that you want the salesperson to do. We have this, when you're doing a compensation plan, there's 2 things we look at. Number 1, efficiency. Number 2, effectiveness. Efficiency refers to the amount of the gross profit that the sales force consumes. And we have something we call Kahle's Calculation, which is a free ebook, and we'll offer it at the end of the program here. And it takes you down through, explains it. It takes you through a spreadsheet, how you measure Kahle's Calculation. You're going to come to a measurement of sales productivity. Now, a lot of people, you know, that's new. That's a new sales productivity. What's that? Well, we can measure it. You know, we can measure sales productivity. We compare one salesperson to another, one plan to another plan, and that's what we use it for. Compare one model of plan to another. So, number 1, efficiency. Is the sales force costing you an appropriate amount of the gross profit? It can be too much, it can be too little. There's a sweet spot in there. So number 1, efficiency. Number 2, effectiveness. And effectiveness means, are the salespeople doing what you want them to do? Now, they can be very effective and terribly inefficient. They can be very efficient, terribly ineffective. It's both. when I say, what do you want them to do? Everybody says, well, sell it for it. But, again, we can be much more finely tuned than that. You can incent selling certain key product lines, certain market segments. I mean, you can incent the increase in penetration of key accounts. There's all kinds of things you can incent as opposed to commission. When you pay a commission, you're fixed. It's all set. You don't have to do anything else. But commissions are these days not effective. So again, I mean, I do an 8-hour workshop on Salesforce compensation. Here's 4 minutes, but yeah,
Yes,
there's a whole world there that needs to be improved for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. All right. And I just want to interject for a second, guys. I just put a link in the chat for the sales calculation. So guys, this is part of your special gift. Okay. So you want to check that out, but we have more for you a little bit later. All right. But make sure you check that link out to get sales calculation. Okay. All right. Go ahead,
Perfect.
guys.
Thank you.
And
Thank
we
you,
have,
Dora.
we're at 30 minutes right now, guys. Okay. So just keep that in mind.
Perfect.
Okay.
Hey, look,
Go ahead.
I like this. I like this question, and the reason that I like is because I haven't experienced before. And I remember once I went out with sales reps to the field, and this sales rep in particular used to visit just a few customers during the day. But the interesting thing is this, Dave, he used to sell more than other sales rep who visited more customers during the day. How that happened? And I believe this is the reason, because this person was so focused on generating relationship with the customers, and he became a salesperson, not just an order taker. So the question is this: how can I turn order takers into salespeople that really love what they do, not just go out and take the order and next, take the order and next, because that doesn't develop a relationship with the customer, because you're going to continue talking to these people. So that's a question right there, Dave.
That's probably the situation that I encounter most often. I've got just a client I'm working with this morning. Basically, how do I take order takers and turn them into salespeople? And there's not 25 words or less answer. It's bigger than that. It begins with organizing your sales structure to reward salespeople. And when I say, what do you mean by sales structure? Well, it's all the decisions that you make that impact the salesperson outside of the person himself or herself. So your compensation plan, the alignment of sales territories, the idea of focusing on potential or QPC, all those are decisions that a management team makes that impact the salespeople. So number one, you got to arrange your sales structure to reward the kind of behavior that you want. And the kind of behavior you want is sales. So number one, you start working on the structure. You goals. I mean, we talked about goals already. So you create goals for sales, not just routine, but for the increase in sales. Everybody says they want an increase in sales, but they reward every dollar of sale. That doesn't make sense. If you want an increase, pay your incentive on the increase, not on every dollar. Just see that alone. That's one little piece can make a huge difference. Pay your incentives on the increase, not on every dollar. Simple. So there's that. So compensation, goals, compensation, training and development. We touched a little bit on training and development, but again, most salespeople have never been trained in the best practices of their job. So they default to what feels comfortable, what feels easy, and that often means they're going to fall into a rut, a comfort zone, because it's comfortable and it's easy. So we got to break them out of that. We got to get them into somewhere else. And one of the pieces is show them what is expected and train them in that. So you can't expect a salesperson to do something you haven't showed them how to do. So again, go back to that thing. Training is so important. Accountability is another piece. You can't allow a salesperson to not make appropriate progress towards their goals, or not, you cannot allow that. And that means that you have to have some form of accountability. And again, in our sales management system, we train sales managers to have a monthly, once a month, face-to-face conversation, a highly scripted conversation with every salesperson. And that's an accountability and encouragement session. You have to have accountability. And then finally, you got to have some measurements. You got to measure certain things, like measure new accounts, measure prospect calls, measure the increase in SKUs sold to key accounts. That's another one. Just that one thing alone will make a huge difference, because a lot of people don't do that. So there's not 25 words or less. It's a matter of methodically arranging the circumstances, training the people, and then holding them accountable.
Wow,
Okay.
interesting. Thank you, Dave. Next question. Look, this
Okay, just want to say we have about 5 minutes for the next two questions, and then we gotta continue on. Okay, guys.
perfect. Thank you. So,
No
so next question is this, Dave. What do you recommend for planning and setting sales territories?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about again, potential. Sales territories should be defined not on the basis of history, but on the basis of potential. So again, it requires you to look at that QPC thing we're talking about, measure that, and make decisions not based on how many customers there are, but what the potential is in those territories and those customers. So that's first. I always recommend, and again, there's a whole methodology here, but I recommend creating ABC customers. A are the highest potential, C are the lowest potential, and B are the ones in between. So you categorize all your customers and all your prospects into those categories, and use that to inform how you arrange sales territories. You don't want to give somebody all C accounts, for example. So there's that, and the other thing is we teach salespeople and sales managers to do a 2-page monthly plan. A 2-page monthly plan. Now, that doesn't say where you're going to be every moment of every day, but it says, what are the most important things for you to accomplish this month? And we categorize it, we break it down into categories. What are the most important key accounts? What are you going to do in key accounts? What are you going to do with key product lines? What are you going to do with new customers? And so we create a 2-page monthly plan, and that's part of that meeting, the monthly meeting that I talked about between the sales manager and the salesperson. Review the monthly plan, and at the end of the month, ask this simple question: did you do what you said you would do? And if not, why not? And if so, good for you. And then now let's see what you can do next month. That's the format. It's basically the format for the monthly meeting. So, that's basically what we recommend for planning and sales territories. There's a whole lot more depth and detail, but that's the overview.
Thank you, Dave. And the last question is this one: how do you make sales team more efficient at visiting more stores and selling?
Yeah, honestly, I think you already know the answer. We've talked about it. We talked through, pull those things together. One other thing that, again, this thing about effectiveness versus efficiency. It's the salespeople are often busy with the wrong things, and so we have to make a distinction between effectiveness and efficiency. And effectiveness is far more important than efficiency. So, in other words, people ask me all the time, how many sales calls should a salesperson make? And I said, well, honestly, I don't know, because I don't know your territories. I don't know how extensive is your product, but I can probably say this, probably fewer, not more, fewer. Why is that? Because if they're making a lot of sales calls, it's superficial. They're order takers. They're running and saying, you need anything today? Okay, see you next week. A salesperson digs deeper, gets to know people, creates relationships, understands the needs. That takes time. So how many sales calls should you make? Probably fewer. I know that's not something anybody's expecting, but honestly, I've seen it over the years. That's what I recommend.
Wow, I love it.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Okay, guys. Well, thank you, Frank, and thank you, Dave, for such a great presentation, guys. We really, I would say, Dave, I think everyone in this webinar right now really appreciates the wealth of knowledge that you've shared with all the OIS customers, everyone that's attended, because I really feel like you gave them practical information, practical tools. I know that you still have to go more in depth, but at the same point, I feel like there's little things that they can do, that little nuggets of wisdom, I call them, that, will help empower their sales team, little changes that they can do right now, so I definitely feel like they appreciate it. And guys, let's just show Dave and Frank some love. Put your fingers to the camera, write it in the chat, show them some love, guys. They did such a great job with this presentation and answering all the questions, and they're here just for you. And I'm curious to know, what are you guys, what is your takeaway today, right? And you can write it in the chat. Like, what's your takeaway? What really resonated for you and your business, right? Let's let them know how great, the information that they've shared. And I have someone who wrote in the chat, Henry Hahn said, great talk and insights. Definitely, definitely. The stuff he shared right now is golden. Now, we're up to the best part, guys, okay? How can Dave help your sales managers and sales teams? I know that a lot of you guys are wondering right now, so I'm going to hand it over to Dave so he can share a little bit more about this, okay? Go ahead, Dave.
Well, we operate, I like to say, at 3 different levels with the Salesforce. At the top is the executive level where I coach and counsel and consult on various issues like Salesforce compensation. It's an executive level sort of project. So we coach and consult at the executive level, and then we develop sales managers. We have a very specific program that just started, by the way. We take a cohort of up to 12 people through 8 modules on what we call the Kahle Way Sales Management System, very specifically designed for wholesale distributors, who have branch managers, anybody who's supervising salespeople. So we have a solution for improving a sales manager, taking up a higher level. And then, of course, we improve salespeople, and we have a unique methodology which I've developed over the years. We call it immersion, and basically we immerse each salesperson into the content, and it's a very unique proprietary system. But we train salespeople. It's an extensive commitment, but we get remarkable results. It's called Kahle Way Distributor Selling System. Anyway, there's other pieces and things like that, but those are the big 3 pieces.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing that information. And guys, who's interested in working with Dave today? I'm ready to sign up. Who's interested in making big changes in 2023, guys? If you are in the chat, I just put a link there. If you're interested, we're trying to make this as easy as possible. If you're interested in working with Dave, you guys can just hit that link and you guys can fill out that form, and Dave will be contacting you, this week. All right. So you guys can, again, it's in the chat. And guys, guys that are listening in, I know we have 4 people listening in right now. I'm going to send you guys all these links that I'm sending out in the chat. I'm going to be sending them in an email after the webinar. So don't worry if you're eating lunch or if, you're just listening in, you guys are going to get this information too. Okay. So, and then I just wanted to say, the time to take action is right now. You want to get your sales teams motivated. You want to see those dramatic results in 2023, and a lot of you maybe have that gut feeling right now, because the thing is, like, this is happening right now, this presentation, and you might be like, oh, I need this for my sales team right now, but maybe I don't know how much it costs, or maybe having those doubts, or, but don't worry. Get your questions to Dave by filling out that form, and he'll get back to you guys. You don't, like he said, you don't know what you don't know, right? So make sure to fill out that form. And next, we're going to be getting to our Q&A in a few moments, but we just have a few quick updates from OIS, right? So I'm going to let Frank take it over. And Frank, you have about 5 minutes, okay? For both sides, for both of the next slides, just letting you know so we stay track on time, okay?
Perfect. So first of all, thank you, Dave, for that valuable information. And now, look, now that we have our sales people well trained, which is what we're gonna do, and that's the main purpose of this webinar today. We're ready. We're ready to boost your, help you boost your sales. and this is basically what we do. The majority of the attendants, know orders in seconds, that we specialize in helping wholesale distributors optimize sales efficiency and help you guys save money. That's the main idea. So if your company is in the distribution business, you guys might have sales reps in the field, direct store delivery, creating invoices, payments. If some of you guys that are new are dealing with manual process for order taking, or you have already a solution that is not working and is wasting your time, definitely we need to talk, because we're going to help you optimize your sales process and help you save money and time by enabling the different order taking solutions that we have. And with the next one, the next slide, this is really interesting because this is something that we briefly launched, which is the OIS e-commerce. And this is something specifically designed for B2B wholesale distributors and manufacturers. So if you want to empower your customers to create their own orders from the stores, from the convenience store, from the restaurant, you're gonna give a tool that is gonna make things so much easy for them to create the orders, send it over to the sales module, and then synchronize all those transactions to your ERP system. So this is the time, guys. This is the time to start, going a little bit further in how we're gonna help you with technology and with all the training that you're gonna get with Dave in order to put this together and boost your sales. In this 2023, it has to be the different. You got to think a little bit different than what you're gonna be doing with different than the competitors, because we're here to help, and we have the solutions, the right solution for you guys in order to optimize your sales. So we're good, Clara.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Frank, for sharing what's new at OIS. If you're interested in learning more about OIS Pro or the OIS e-commerce app, I put a link in the chat. So you guys could, same thing, you guys can fill that out, and Frank can get back to you this week, okay? So we have that. And now we're at our Q&A session now. Guys, if you have any questions, guys, I know you guys are in sales. I know you guys are not shy at all. Please ask some questions now. I need some questions in the Q&A. It's wide open. You guys could ask me any questions that you'd like to know from Dave, okay, about your sales team, about being a sales leader, any trouble, scenarios, you guys could write that in the chat, okay? And let me see. And if we don't get to your question today, I can send your question directly to Dave too. So if we don't get to your question, but right now, Dave, a question that came to mind, I guess, during the presentation while you were talking, right? The question that came to mind was, because you were a salesperson, right? Or still are a sales, right? But like, you were a salesperson. What reward did you receive in your experience, right, with the companies you worked for, that made you like stay with the company, or that made you get that extra sale or spend that extra time? Was there any like reward or incentive that you can remember?
Yeah, there was. And this really speaks to this whole issue of recognition. Recognition is a classic way to motivate salespeople. So at one time in the company, the wholesale distributor that I was with, they had an annual award, Salesperson of the Year. And they called it the Bell Ringer Award, and they had a big bell, and that's your name, and the year and so on in the bell. It was a big deal. And they had an annual banquet where the men wore tuxedos, the women wore evening dresses. It was a big deal, they had a band, the whole thing. And the culmination of the event was who got the Bell Ringer Award, who's Salesperson of the Year, and I got it. And so this is kind of interesting. I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was.
Okay.
A long time ago. But you'll find this interesting. I still have that picture of me getting the award. I still have it.
Wow.
It's decades old. So, there's no money attached to that. It was just recognition, and it was really, really important. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
If we,
awesome. That's awesome.
well, I see there's a question. I was gonna, so,
Yeah, I'm
I've
gonna
got a couple other things
Henry.
I can talk about, so go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. We have a question from Henry Hahn. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. All right. Speaking of efficiency, do you think it's valuable to set a minimum number of hours that sales reps should work? Or is it okay to be more tolerant of part-time salespeople in the post-COVID economy? Great question. If you want me to read that again, I can read that again.
So I don't know. I guess I'm old school this way. First of all, studies have been done on how much time a salesperson works, and the average field salesperson, the average business-to-business salesperson, works about 50 hours a week. Then 50, and so I think that's about right. I don't think you get anywhere. I don't think you achieve success in anything working 40 hours a week. You got to put in the time. And the idea of part-time salespeople is, to me, just is it rubs me the wrong way. So here's this is one. A number of years ago, one of the clients had 35, 40 salespeople, and they wanted to put GPS trackers in their cars. And I thought, oh man, you don't really need to do that. Come on. But they did, and the results were honestly amazing. The amount of people who left at 10 in the morning, took 2-hour lunches, and were done at 3. And one guy who was a senior sales rep spent 2 days a week at his cottage. It's like,
what?
Yeah, and they didn't know it. They didn't know it because they. So I'm not saying you ought to track sales. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that there is an expectation. If you're going to be successful, you got to put in the time. So part-time salespeople. I mean, if he's getting paid part-time, okay, if that's the understanding. But a full-time salesperson working part-time, I don't have any tolerance for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I have. So Henry puts in the chat, right? After listening to your answer, he says, that's exactly what we just started doing, and that's why I asked. That's why he asked, because that's exactly what they just started doing.
Yeah.
So you hit the nail on the head, Dave.
Yeah.
With that one, it says, but we've encountered that we have some reps who work less hours and they sell more than the reps who work 7 to 8 hours.
So what would happen if those reps work? If those reps work more hours, they'd sell double.
Yeah, if those reps worked more hours, they would sell double. Yep. That's your answer. All right, thank you, Henry. And now I have a question from Fabio. If our compensation model is not something that we can wait for now, we cannot mind. Okay, so if our compensation model is not something, I think they mean we can't modify like right now, what can I focus on to motivate my sales team? So they can't modify the compensation model right now, but what else can they do? Because I guess it's set in stone.
Yeah, that's a good question. And sales managers often don't have the ability to influence compensation. Sometimes they do, but sometimes not. So it's a very common question. And the answer is, can you compensate or can you motivate a salesperson through means other than money? And the answer is yes, of course you can. So here's some things. The relationship with you. So number one, you ought to create as great a relationship as you can with each sales rep, and get to know him or her. That alone is of value, and that alone is motivational for the sales rep, because he or she knows you and you know him. So that's number one. Number two, again, recognition, and you can build that in to your system. You can have a salesperson of the month. You can do that every month. You can have a salesperson of the year. You can break down pieces, a salesperson in this product line or that product line. You can put bar charts and show how people are comparing towards their goals. You can award everybody's titles and awards for achieving goals. Again, that's not a compensation plan, it's above and beyond compensation. So there's things like that. I mean, here's just a little thing. Everybody can do this. And that is, have a monthly sales meeting, prep it beforehand, find somebody who's got a success story, and give them 5 minutes to tell their success story in front of their colleagues, at every single sales meeting. And what you'll find is that's motivational for the person who's speaking, but it's also motivational for everybody who's listening, So, and that's, it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything. You could
That's gold
everybody
right
on this
there.
call
That's gold. I
can
hope
do that
everyone's
next month.
listening. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
gold.
here's one other thing, and again, doesn't have to be expensive, and that is invest in their development. And we talked just a little bit about training and development, but people want to know when you invest in them, that makes them feel like you're interested and you care about them. One of the vice presidents of Microsoft said this: investing in development is number one, our single greatest competitive advantage and the single greatest employee benefit. Double hit. Strategic advantage and employee benefit. Two things for one initiative. So let me just give you a couple quick things you can do. You can buy my program, but here's something you can do that's much cheaper. Every month, give somebody $30 and say, go buy a book, a book on sales or communication or something like that. Find 10 good ideas, and next month at sales meeting, I want you to present those 10 good ideas you got from that book. $30 a month, you spend more on lunch.
Yeah, I see.
And
I
simple
see.
little
Yeah.
thing. It makes everybody interested.
And it goes
next
a
month,
long
you
way.
give the $30 to somebody else. You just run through the salesforce. Simple little thing to keep people involved and engaged and make them feel motivated.
Yes, great stuff, great stuff. And I'm just going to continue because I know we're coming towards the end of the webinar. Guys, thank you for the Q&A. Thank you for asking those questions. Now, special gift for everyone that stayed till the end. Here we go, guys. As a thank you, Dave has been extremely generous, guys. He's offering a subscription to one of his free digital publications, Sell Better, with tips and trends for salespeople and sales leaders that gets delivered straight to your inbox. And then second, he's giving away 2 free ebooks. The first one that teaches, it's called Profile of a Professional Sales Manager, where he teaches the traits of a professional sales manager so you can become an even better and more effective sales leader. He's also giving away, which you guys had access to before, the How to Create Sales Calculation. So Dave knows, guys, measuring sales performance, that sometimes for you guys it may seem like rocket science. It doesn't have to be. He's simplified it in his ebook, okay? And he teaches you how to objectively measure sales productivity for every salesperson and your sales team, right? So how do you get access to this bundle, you may ask? I'm going to go ahead and put that link again in the chat, as well as the other links that we had on there before. And the people listening in, I will email you those later. Okay, and let's see, a big thank you to Dave for this gift too. And now, guys, if you want to connect with our speakers, if you had a quick question, you just wanted to, email them, you can email Dave or you can call him at that number. And Frank, if you had any questions for Frank regarding OIS Pro or OIS e-commerce or any question at all, guys, or customers or attendees, you can email him, call him to his phone number or his WhatsApp number too, if they're available. And guys, remember to connect with these guys on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way. Send them a connection request, okay? And let them know how great they did and what you guys learned in this presentation today. It's a great way to connect. All right, guys. And now that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for joining us, guys. We want to thank Dave. Thank you for joining us, Frank, all of the OIS customers, which we love so much, and Dave's clients, and then our LinkedIn signups too. And guys, we're going to continue to have webinars like this because we feel like they really provide value to our customers, and we want you to succeed because if you guys win, we all win, right? So please keep a head out for the upcoming webinars. We're going to have a webinar every month about a different trending topic, right? Specific for wholesale distributors and manufacturers. And just FYI, last year in November, we had a QuickBooks webinar on inventory management with Lori Walsh from 4Lane. You guys can check that out in our YouTube channel if you guys missed that or are interested in that. And then should I say after, am I allowed to say what's for February, our lineup for February? Can I give them a hint? I already said it. I need to give them a hint now, right? All right, I'm going to say it. Okay, it's a big company in route planning. So if you have salespeople and you are mapping routes, you're gonna want to be at the next webinar. Okay, so make sure you keep a heads up in your email for that. All right, but thank you guys so much for joining us today, and everyone have a great day. Bye, guys.